So first of all, welcome to Engineering Design Projects 1. This is a mechanical engineering technology specific course, and I like to refer to it as, this is kind of a long title, I call it Creo2. So it's our second Creo class, building on the first one that you had about a year ago. It's been a while. And most of you had GD&T with me in between, and we took a little hiatus and we looked at SolidWorks for a little bit just to give you some exposure to that. But we're going to be back in Creo for this class. So just as the name kind of, alludes to, we're going to be focusing on projects and going to be trying to mimic more closely the types of things that you're going to be seeing out in industry. So that's what we get to look forward to. My plan is, and I believe we'll be able to do 4 projects, about 2 weeks each one is how we're going to kind of cycle them through. And tonight you're going to get the preview, if you would, at our first project, and I'm going to kind of get you started on that. So before we get into kind of the fun stuff, we do have to go over course overview, syllabus, all that kind of jazz. For those who have had me in the past, and many of you have, you're going to notice that this course is going to be run very similarly, but we still need to go over things because first of all, it's worth repeating. And then second, we have a couple of people who are new. So as you come into Canvas, all of your resources are going to be found out here on Canvas. And as you can see here, it's going to kind of look familiar on our left side. Anytime that I have an announcement, like when I released the class and welcome you to the course, you saw this, I think, sometime early last week, where you could kind of go in and start kind of peeking around. Any announcement that I send to the entire class will be sent as an announcement, and you should also get it as an email as well. So hopefully everybody saw that there. So it's not like you have to go in here and look for announcements or anything like that. If I do send anything new, it will go to your email, and then you can see it here as well. So I'm not going to take time to go to the announcements, but I am going to go down to the syllabus page. And here is where we're going to kind of go over the syllabus and give you an overview of the course in general. So as you can see here, we kind of have the name of our course, our course numbers. CRN is just like really the section that is occurring here in our fall 1 term. This is a 2-credit class, and we meet for 8 hours per week. Okay, so 4 hours on Tuesday evening. Hi, Daniel. Oh. And 4 hours on Thursday evening at this very same time, starting at 5 o'clock. This is considered a face-to-face / hybrid / virtually live lecture. And I also, as you know, I record my lectures as well. So if in the event you can't be here during the time that we meet, whether it's virtual or in person, you can always catch the replay as well and see what you missed. The recordings that are due are simply that. They're recordings of what goes on in class. I don't, do any editing to those. I want them to reflect exactly what goes on. I don't want people to get intimidated when I start recording that they can't ask questions. That's not what it's about. It's about duplicating whatever we did that day. So don't even worry about it being a recording. Everybody gets the benefit of any questions you have or anything like that. And I prefer that real time you stop me and ask as we go along. I'll be in this room on Tuesdays and Thursdays, recording from here, but you can choose your location. If you want to be virtually off campus at a location of your choice, maybe at home or something like that, or, somewhere else, or you can physically be in this room. Know that the computers have the software that runs, here on campus. So even if you, have your own version on your own computer, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, how you can get that student version of Creo. And an excuse of not getting homework in is not because your computer at home wasn't working, because we do have everything working here in our lab. So if in fact you do have any issues technologically at a different location, then the expectation is that you're coming here to campus, just so that you know. So kind of know that going in. Our days that we're meeting are starting today, and we're going to go to not quite the middle of October. So I think officially the 10th of October is our last day. That's a Thursday, but the end of the term is on the 11th. So I'm still accepting work on the 11th, even though that's not one of our days. And like it says here, Tuesdays, Thursdays, 5 till almost 9, about 9 o'clock. So I do have a very general course calendar down here. And as I had said, we're going to be looking at 4 separate projects throughout the term. Each is going to be about 2 weeks long. So we're going to get started on our first module, our first assignment, tonight. So before we get there though, let's look at the syllabus. So here's the PDF of the syllabus. At the top here, you can kind of see all that general information that we just talked about. We're going to be meeting in here Thursday, and this really just means I'm going to be in here both nights, and Thursday and Tuesday can be the Zoom virtual option. There might be at times where, let's say we have a work night, I might just say I'll be virtual from home that night. We can all be virtual or something to that effect. But for the most part, like I said, I'll be here unless otherwise noted. In this class, we're going to be looking more deeply into 3D modeling using Creo. And the intent is to try to duplicate as closely as possible things that you would be encountering in your responsibilities when you're out in industry. My big focus for you is to have, small little assemblies. You're going to create a full set of working drawings, including all the details, all of the assembly drawings, the models, so that it can actually work. We're also going to be doing some projects with the 3D printer so that you can make some things along the way intentionally. So, so those are kind of what we're going to be focusing on in here. Prerequisites, it would just be the Creo class that you had, and then GD&T. We will be having applications of GD&T in here as well. So that's something to look forward to as well. The textbook, I want to talk about the textbook. I'm not a big fan of the textbook. This textbook was picked previous to me getting assigned to this course. So it was kind of like too late to cancel it. But if this is the book that is assigned, I'm not crazy about the thing on the front. The whole book is about creating that cart. And to me, it's not very industrial. And although, I mean, there's some good things in here, and I'm going to reference this book as we go along, we're not going to be creating that cart, okay? Even though the book kind of focuses on that. If you choose, I'm going to let you be the judge. If you want to have a book like this for reference as we go along, and even if we use it, I'm going to be making copies for those who don't have it. So if you haven't purchased it yet, I'll let you decide if you want to purchase it. If you have purchased it and you want to take it back, you can do that as well. Okay. So, and if and when we reference anything out of here, I will make PDF copies of it. Pretty much what I'm going to be looking at are some other projects that I've used over the years that, like, again, are a little bit more applicable to things that you're going to be doing out in industry. So, so that's the book. I'll let you kind of be the judge of how you want to handle that. It says that it's a tutorial, and I don't think it's a tutorial at all. It's a very conversational. If you look in here, you're going to notice that even when they focus on certain subjects, it's not a step 1, step 2, step 3, look here, click here. It's more kind of talks about it and then has you do it or demonstrate it. So you still got to play around with it. It's not to me, a true tutorial. So, like I said, I didn't think it was very user friendly, and I wasn't really crazy about it. So I'll pick little parts from it, but we're not going to go cover to cover in here for sure, just so that you know. Other course materials that will come in handy. If you're working here on campus, as you know, you have a OneDrive available to save things, but a flash drive is kind of nice too, especially if you're working in 2 different places. A scientific calculator, just for reference. We aren't going to necessarily be doing any heavy duty calculations, but at times having those functions is going to be nice. On your phone is also, totally fine to use a calculator as long as it has those scientific functions. Pencil, if you decide to be virtual, you'll need a computer with a webcam and internet access so that you can do the Zoom. As far as your instructor, it's me, Kelly Riba. Please call me Kelly. My email and my phone number are here. You can feel free to call or text my phone number. That is my cell phone, and texting is probably the fastest. Even though I have my email on my phone, it pushes like every couple hours as opposed to being more immediate like a text message. So you can feel free to do that. I do try to respond within 24 hours of getting a text. Just make sure you let me know who you are. Otherwise it comes through as a phone number. If you're not in my contacts yet, I usually try to add them as they come in. So if you have texted me in the past, there's a good chance you are in my contacts. But let me know it's you, and I'm happy to respond, even if it's, a day that we're not meeting or later in the evening. If it's on the weekends, I say I don't guarantee I will get back to you. It just might not be as quickly as it would be during the week. So, so just be aware of that. I also have on here after 8 o'clock because I am a little bit of an early bird going to bed. Because I end up getting up early. So, so if it's after 8 o'clock at night, don't hesitate to text me. I might just respond to you, but if I don't think I'm ignoring you. It just might be that I'm not awake. The Zoom link is going to be in Canvas. I'll show you where that is in a little bit. And my office is actually across here from the mechanical design labs. I think it's I-203 officially is the room. Or if you want to meet with me anytime, we can do it by appointment via Zoom, or we can do it in person. So just let me know if you have that as a need. Hi, Christian. What we're going to be learning through this course, as I said, and I'm not going to read each one of these to you, it's going to be jumping off the basics that we learned in our first Creo class, and we're going to continue by doing some more projects. And again, mimicking the type of responsibilities and the types of things that you would be expected to do when you're out in industry. Critical life skills that are going to be focused on in here are really all four of them. Communication, critical thinking, relationships, and self-management. And through the things that we're going to be doing, communication is going to be a big deal. We create the documentation for parts to be made. So that's going to come through not only in, the design work that you do, but in creating the drawings and the assembly drawings for each one of the parts. Critical thinking and problem solving. The things that we do, there's a lot of variables that come into play. So picking out and figuring out what you have to do first in order to get the next thing done and such. So kind of going through that problem solving process and critically thinking, when there's a lot of variables at play to get problems solved is something that we do all the time, and that you're going to be doing when you're out in industry. You'll be experts at that. Relationships. So interpersonal relationships. If you notice that somebody is working and they're struggling a little bit, I encourage you to help each other out. This is a second year course. It's kind of like a prelude to your capstone course that you're going to have in the final semester. That capstone course is going to be where you're going to devise a design project, and you're going to make a working prototype over the course of 16 weeks. So actually 2 terms. This is the precursor to that. So my job is to prepare you for kind of that project work type of thing. So working with others and working through things is going to be something that we'll get that opportunity to do here. And then self-management. Self-management is a lot of meeting the deadlines, making sure that you're setting aside the time that you need so that you can adequately and completely get jobs done. So all 4 of those things are things that we're going to encounter here in this class. As far as program outcomes specific to mechanical design or mechanical engineering technology, creating those documents that are going to come from the 3D models into the 2D drawings that are going to be used to make the parts that you design. Generating those technical documents that are acceptable to industry, to the standards, and then also being able to resolve any problems that come up or kind of finish a problem that's there for you. The external standards that are going to be addressed in this class are going to be applying the dimensioning standard, the ASME 14.5 2018. And then technology that you are going to need for this course. Now, like I said earlier, our labs at WCTC are equipped with the computers and the software that you need to do everything in this course. There isn't anything outside of that you need to do. But if you choose to work remotely or off campus, you will need a computer or a laptop that is capable of running our Creo software. There is a link in Canvas, and I'll show it to you in a little bit after we get through our syllabus, where you can download the most current version that we're going to be using. Okay. Kind of looking here. Also, make sure that you have a high-speed internet connection so that you can get all of the stuff that you need on Canvas, as well as being able to communicate virtually on Zoom if you need to or you want to. And then also having a working webcam. No privacy practices, accessibility policies outside of what WCTC has. As far as skills that you need coming in here, because you are in your second year, the beginning of your second year, these should all be pretty solid at this point. Basic computer skills, using Microsoft Windows and Outlook, using Canvas to navigate around this course, using Creo, kind of the basics, the fundamentals that you learned in the first class, and then also kind of web browsing and stuff like that. If you do have any technology issues, whether they are here or at home, we have a wonderful help desk here at WCTC. Sometimes, especially when you're downloading the software onto a laptop or a computer, you know, something might get missed. Creo is a little finicky at times. So bringing your laptop and working with our help desk or calling the help desk, you can see that the number is here. They can help you kind of resolve those issues. I can help like for just a little bit. And when it starts to get really technical, then they're going to be the experts that'll help you, you know, get where you need to be. How is your grade going to be calculated? So there are going to be practice problems, and there's also going to be assignments. So the practice problems are going to be things that we're going to be doing during our lecture demo time. And then there's going to be assignments that are going to then be, you know, what's going to be used to complete our project. So each one of our modules is going to have some practice problems, and then there's going to be assignments for each. I guess I call them assignments. I didn't change that. They're kind of like the projects, if you would. So practice problems are worth 20% of your grade. These are done during the lecture or demo. And I do them start to finish. So there might be a problem or two or a part or two that we physically do here, you know, start to finish during my lecture. That I consider a practice problem. I want you to follow along. During that process, I'll kind of walk you through, make sure that you understand how it's done. And then I want you to hand that in as part of the practice problems, because that lets me know that you followed along, okay, and did what you were supposed to. Our lectures are considered a learning activity, okay? It's not optional. I don't want you to jump to the actual assignments, okay? Because during my lectures and demos, I give you the requirements and the formatting and all that kind of stuff. If you jump to going to the assignments and just rushing in and doing them, there'll probably be things that you miss, and then you'll end up having to, you know, go back and make corrections. So practice problems. They're really checked for completion. If you have any more than one or two things that you miss on the practice problems, you either get a 0 or a 10. If everything is there, it's a 10, or one or two little minor infractions, it's still a 10. But anything after that, if it goes into 3, 4, you know, things that are missing, then I assume that you weren't really following along. So you get a 0. It's a 1 attempt assignment. So practice problems are one time through. And the reason I do them one time through is because I do them for you. I kind of give you the answers right here in class. So make sure that you're following along. They're kind of my insurance to do exactly that. A lot of you do follow along. And some of you, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. That's okay. That's okay. That's a way of learning, but this is just my assurance to make sure we're all on the same page at the end of the lecture. You do get a 7-day grace period on the practice problems. So I'm going to have a set due date. And then what happens is you get 7 days after that to hand it in for full credit. After that, no credit is given on the practice problems, kind of like done. Okay. Now remember, it's important that you do them because they are worth 20% of your grade. If you don't do any practice problems, that means that you're only earning 80% of the total possible points, like in the class, if you would. You can still pass, no doubt about it, but this gives you the A's and the B's. That's really the differentiator. And then the module assignments, this is going to be 80% of your grade. So these you get 2 attempts on. There's going to be your initial submission and 1 correction before the end of the 7-day grace period. So you're going to have a set due date. You're going to have an additional 7 days to get them in. You don't have to ask me for an extension past that. And during that time, you can get those 2 submissions in, your initial plus corrections. If you do your initial submission on the last day of the 7-day grace period, then you may not be able to make corrections. So you got to kind of, you know, plan it so that you can take advantage of that. The reason I do the 7-day grace period is because I have all the due dates on Friday. I just picked that date. It's just easy for me to remember all my classes. My due dates are on Friday. If you've had me before, you've noticed that trend. Sometimes Fridays aren't great for everybody. Okay. And this way you don't have to ask me, could I have through the weekend? Could I have a couple extra days? Just take it. Everybody gets the 7-day grace period. But once that 7-day grace period is done for the assignments, it's done. Okay. There is no excuse. So even if you say, I'm sorry, I didn't get it in on that 7-day grace period day, could I have extra time? I always say no. And I don't say no to be mean, but the 7-day grace period wasn't the due date. The due date was the week before. Does that make sense to everybody? So don't treat the 7-day grace period as your due date, because you will bump up against it and you'll have problems. But know that even if you don't make the 7-day grace period, all is not lost, okay? The thing that happens is after the 7-day grace period, if you submit, you get a 20% deduction on that homework assignment, okay? And you can't make corrections. So whatever you hand in at that point, and I still encourage you to finish the assignment because 80% of that grade is still way better than a 0, okay? So, so you still can hand in, it's just that you get the deduction and no corrections. The letter grade here is going to be what you earn after the 4 projects / assignments that we have throughout the term. And this is consistent with WCTC's grading scale. When you can expect feedback, I really try to be totally on top of feedback, and that means you're correcting and knowing how you're doing on your assignments. It says here you can expect a grade or things done within 3 school days. Okay, I think I'm a little better than that. My goal at the end of each day is to have everything corrected. Okay, if I possibly can. So so if you notice that especially if it goes beyond anything 3 days, gently remind me and say, hey, did you miss this? Because it's not my intent to do that. When I correct, what's kind of weird about Canvas, it doesn't give me a list of what I have to do. I have to physically go in and kind of scan the grade book to see what's there and what's open and what's done. So it's not as straightforward from my side. So sometimes things can get by me unintentionally. So please gently remind me. Attendance. Attendance is required for each class. And as I said earlier, you have the choice of where you want to attend. As long as you have reliable technology at another location, maybe your home, you have good internet access. Now, I know internet access you can't always have control over, but if it's pretty darn strong and you're confident in it, feel free to use that as an option. Okay, you're still going to be here. You do have to have a working webcam so that when we get on, I can kind of see that you're there, ready to work, all that kind of stuff. And I'll kind of guide you and let you know when you can turn your camera on and off or so. But for the most part, I want to make sure that you're there and that you have the ability to communicate with me so that you can ask questions real time. So I always kind of check to see, can you hear and see me, all that kind of stuff. During that lecture time, and my lectures will be, I don't know, about an hour and a half at the most, I'm going to be demoing whatever we're working on that day. And at times we might have some work days too. So, so during that time is when I'm kind of giving you the information on the requirements, on the assignments, but then also demoing things that are going to be important to you. And then also give you insights on formatting requirements so that when you hand in, you have everything that you need and such. If you're unable to attend a class, please notify me via email of your absence before that class starts. Okay, so if you're not feeling well and you realize I'm not going to be in class, let me know ahead of time because that's considered an excused absence. Everybody gets a free excused absence. Okay, so one that's not going to affect your grade. Anything beyond that is going to be a 2% reduction on your grade for no other reason than just to minimize them. That's all. Okay, so if it ends up being more than 1 and it just happened, you just had a bad week or something like that, and your grade ends up being close, I'll always take that in consideration. But if you decide not to, or if you forget to let me know or notify me before class that you're going to have an absence, that's an unexcused absence. And every one of those is going to be a 5% reduction in your grade. The reason I do this in the class is to mimic what would be expected of you out in industry. When you're out in industry or any job that you would have, you need to let somebody know if you're not going to be showing up. So I expect that same courtesy here. So, so make sure that you do that. On that note, if you end up missing class, that's okay. All right. Don't worry about that. I always will be recording our sessions. So my expectation of you is that between when you miss and the time that you return or start coming back to class, that you are reviewing the recording that I created. Okay, so that you're up to speed because that's going to be exactly what you missed. Don't come and say to me, did I miss anything last week, Thursday, when I wasn't here? Yes, you did. You always will. So make sure that you go back and I'll show you where those session recordings are going to be housed so that you can get yourself up to speed before the next time that you're in class. Okay, any questions about that? All right. Late work. We talked a little bit about this already. Each assignment is going to have a set due date. Okay. You will be able to hand in practice problems and assignments during that 7-day grace period without any penalty. Okay. Again, I just want you to know I'm just picking a day. And to me, that day is not important. It's more about we want to make sure that we pace our class so that we get all the assignments in appropriately. And if you need a little bit of extra time to finish things up, you know, depending on your schedule, you guys are probably taking multiple classes. There might be tests one week in a class and you're like, oh, I didn't get to work as much on, you know, I'm going to always say Creo2 because I think the title's so long. In our Creo class, I would much rather you push this a little bit, knowing that you have that 7-day grace period. Okay. Other things in your life might happen too. All of a sudden, your car's not working or work gets busy and they need you to come in for extra hours. Let this class be your adjuster. Okay. I don't want anybody, you know, stressing out about things. So know that you have that 7-day grace period. And even if you get beyond the 7-day grace period, again, all is not lost. You do get a deduction off of your grade, but way better than a 0. Okay. So it's not like I'm not going to accept it. But when we get to the end of the class, no work is accepted after the final day of the course. So that's where, you know, you don't get an additional week at the end of the class. That's when it actually stops. So inside of our course, if you would, we've got that flexibility, but when we get to the end, it's the end. And if there is anything that's not submitted, it does go to a 0 and get calculated into your final grade. I just always have this note, please note, students who attend class on a regular basis and hand in their work by the due dates earn the highest grades in my classes. Okay, that's always the case. If you stay on top of this stuff, it just is easier. You probably noticed that in other classes too. Nobody likes to play catch up at any point, and the whole experience is more positive. So, so keep that in mind. Learning environment etiquette, what's expected of you in our classrooms. First and foremost, any rules that are in the student conduct code at WCTC and your student handbook, those all apply. Outside of that, and I don't really think outside of that, but kind of hand in hand with that are the items that I have listed here. I'm not going to go through each and every one. There's a couple that I do want to mention. Number one, always be ready to work when you get to class. I like to start promptly at our start time, which for this class, it's 5 o'clock, and I'll usually start there. But also know that those first minutes, I'm usually going over the calendar, taking any questions from the previous, and then anything that is new, I'll start recording. So I want you to know that I never want anybody speeding to get here or, you know, recklessly driving just to get here so that class starts because, you know, Kelly starts on time. You have the recordings and all that kind of stuff. I would much rather you be safe, that maybe you even decide to go virtual because you just didn't leave in time, whatever might come up. And just know that there's always a plan B in this class so that you can catch yourself up. The other thing that I wanted to let you know about when we're in our like open work time. So every time that we meet, like I said, I'm going to be doing my lecture demo. Then afterwards, for the rest of the time, you're going to have time to work on the things that are coming up. And during that time, I don't mind if you guys, you know, talk to one another, bounce ideas off of one another, just keep the conversations to a low level, knowing that other people are trying to work as well. I encourage you to help one another out. But if we are having conversations, they don't have to be necessarily on topic, but the ones that I don't want talked about are religion, politics, sex, and race, or anything that causes angst. I really want to keep outside of our classroom. Everything else is on the table, okay? And there's lots of other things that we can talk about. I just want to keep it positive and inclusive when we're here because we all have our own points of view. And like I said, anything that causes angst, and unfortunately, in today's day and age, a lot of things cause angst, it seems. So let's keep it positive. And then I also don't like swearing. That's not very positive. Okay. And you guys are really good about that. So please refrain from that. That's also a good practice for when you go out in industry, you're going to be in a professional environment, and you know, how you present yourself and the way that you talk is really important. So practicing that here is really good. And then I always like to say, the golden rule always applies. Do unto others as you would want to have done unto you. So think about that as you're interacting with your classmates. Any questions on that front? Okay. All right. Personal electronic device use in my class. I don't mind if you have your phones out. I realize they're kind of part of our lives. That's how we communicate. That's how we move around in our world. And sometimes things come up and we need to be connected. But what I do ask is that you turn the ringers off. If you remember, if you don't, it's okay if they go off. And if you do need to take a phone call or you need to take care of something, just excuse yourself and you can go outside of the classroom and take care of it. Okay. So I just appreciate that we don't have those out and, you know, you're distracted by those while we're actively working. Other policies. So again, this is kind of just reviewing the assignment policy. I encourage you to make the corrections on those graded assignments. That has to be done within the 7-day grace period. And points will be deducted if you hand in after that. Practice problems, again, are a one-time attempt within the 7-day grace period. It's either 10 or 0 with the ability to, you know, have a couple little minor infractions, but then after that, you know, kind of making sure that we're filling it all in. Course extensions, there are no course extensions unless extenuating circumstances, and they do come up. But if you say, I just ran out of time, I have to get it okayed by the dean, and the dean's not going to approve somebody just running out of time. Okay. So it has to be something that out of your control, you know, occurred during that semester, and things do happen. Then we can make that case to our instructor or to our dean. Actually, over the summer, I had a student that was taking a class with me, and he was involved in a car accident that he couldn't be in class for like a week and a half. Well, that was out of his control. All right. I'm just happy he's okay. And everything was, you know, that he was able to get on the mend, but it did kind of stop his progress in the class. That's an extenuating circumstance. Okay. I hope nobody's in any car accidents, and that's not the only exception, but stuff like that comes up as a part of just life. You know, we can work with. Communication outside of the class. You can contact me via email. You can text me on my phone or leave me a message, or we can meet in person. And like I said here, I don't guarantee, but I do respond to you on the weekends. It's just not as quick. Cheating. Hello, how's it going? If you're caught cheating in my class, you will be withdrawn immediately and given an F for this class, and then you're going to have to retake it, unfortunately. Just don't. I think you guys have heard me say this before. If I catch you cheating, because I don't look for it. I assume everybody's here that they want to go through this stuff, that they enjoy it as much as I do, and they want to make sure that they're getting as much out of the class as possible. Believe it or not, cheating isn't as hard to find as you would think, especially when we were dealing with electronic files. So, so make sure that you're not doing it. I try to eliminate as many chances for cheating to occur, especially in the flexibility that I offer in the due dates. Usually people are resorting to cheating when they're up against a due date and they're not able to hand anything in, and it's either 0 or something. Well, you guys don't have that, okay? So please do not cheat. If you are struggling with something, that's what I'm here for. You also have your classmates too to bounce ideas off of. Please do not cheat, all right? I don't do that. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. Outside of class work, the stuff that I have planned for us for the term, I believe is doable within the 8 hours a week that we have. And I really try to keep it that way because I realize it's not a requirement that you have this software and this technology outside of class. But I can't say for sure that that's going to occur for everybody. We all kind of hit different, you know, things where something's a little bit more difficult and it takes us a little bit more time to get beyond it. And you can expect to have some outside work in this course. But for the most part, I try to plan so that the rigor is something that you can do within the time frame. But if not, then you may have to schedule more time. And we do have this lab open more than just our classes. So just be aware of that. Virtual Zoom sessions, I'll always broadcast live from both the classroom and or from my home. I don't have any right now, any scheduled times where we're going to be virtual unless it comes up. But like I said, I'll be planning on being here every time that we meet. And if you choose and you want to be virtual during any of those times, then just make sure that you're logged on, that you log on through the Zoom link before class starts. And then I always say to just check your email or your announcements before coming to class. This is a good idea to do for all of your courses. Probably most of you have your WCTC email on your phone, just like I do. And that way, if anything occurs, my main line of communication with you would be to send an announcement, which will also email to you if I do need to cancel class. Okay. And I'll try to do that as soon as possible. If you need any help, now I realize for this class, it's most specific to Creo and what we do here in mechanical design. But if you have other courses, I think I kind of heard some people have maybe physics or you have calculus, or you have other writing courses. WCTC, something that they do exceptionally well is they have a great math center, writing center, and a reading center, and the sciences too. I know you can get help like with physics. So if you are feeling like you need more support outside of classes that are maybe not this one, check out our resources for students that are there. Has anybody taken advantage of the math center? Christian, I know you. Oh, I've got a lot of hands up here. They're outstanding, aren't they? Yeah. 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 So keep that in mind. If you feel like you need that, know that a lot of people take advantage of it, and it is to your benefit to do so. And it's free of charge. It's like free tutoring, right? It's free. So as just for being a student here, we want to make sure that you get the support that you need. So so make sure that you check that out. And then there's other clubs and things that are offered here at WCTC. So so whatever you feel you want to take advantage of. So so questions on the syllabus right now. Lex.
We don't feel last class, it should be good.
Well, the last class we did the 9th version. It was Creo 9. In this class, we've updated the computers here to Creo 10. So if you do anything here on campus that is not reverse compatible, so you would have to be in 10 in both places. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yes. And I'll explain that in just a bit. Yeah. So yeah. So the question, if, for the recording's sake, asking if the 9th version of Creo is still good, can I use that? You can use it if that's the only one that you're going to use. But if you are going to bounce back on our computers here, we're at 10. So you have to then have both at the same level. Okay, then let's go take a look at the rest of our Canvas shell. So we're done with the syllabus for right now, and I will explain things as the assignments come up. I'll remind us of due dates and policies and stuff like that as we go along, and never hesitate to ask if you're wondering. Let's take a peek at our modules. So in our modules here, I have right at the top here, Creo resources. This is going to be your link to your free off-campus version of Creo 10. Creo 10 is the version that we are using here at WCTC. Creo 11 has been released by Creo. WCTC makes a conscious effort to be one version behind. Whenever you're in the newest version, just like any other software, there's bugs, right, that happen along the way. So to avoid that, we always are intentionally 1 year behind. So when you download and when you go out, do not pick 11, pick 10, okay? Now, if you have the 9th edition on your computer, you have to uninstall that completely first, okay? So go through that process of uninstalling, and then you're going to download the free version off of there. And the other reminder I want to make sure that you do is that you use your WCTC email to register it. If you use a Gmail account, you'll get rejected. And then it's kind of a mess to try to get it again, okay? Because you'll get like a certain point through the download, and then all of a sudden it'll stop and it's not going to work. So you have to use your WCTC email, because this is a free version offered to students only for educational purposes only. And I'm highlighting that here, okay? This is really important. They want to make sure they use that email as your proof that you are indeed a student and that you're not going to use this software, for profit purposes. Okay. So if you're working at a company, you can't use this version of Creo to do any CAD work or work for them. I've had that happen in the past. It was actually at my old school. I had a student that was working at a company that was thinking about getting, I think it was SolidWorks. And they're like, oh, I use SolidWorks at work. And he was making parts for them at work. And he's like, oh, and I'm like, whoa. We got to shut that down. Cause yeah, you can get in trouble for that. So I always like to mention that you cannot do anything that you anticipate making a profit for, even at a later date. You have to do that on licensed software. Okay, so, so questions about that. So is that helpful, Lex? So uninstall if you have that version 9 of Creo on a personal computer, and then reinstall the download here as of Creo 10, not 11. If you have any issues with that download, the best place to get help is going to be through our WCTC. They install mine like locally loaded, and so they take care of all that. I really don't do much of that except the download part. Okay, so that's where that link is for you. You'll also notice here in modules that we are going to be using Creo drawing borders. If you had me for the first Creo class, some of you did, some of you didn't. You probably have these borders, but when we go in here, Creo is a little bit different about borders. It's not just one file. You have to have a format file, and then you're going to have your borders or your template files, they call them. So when you put them into your working directory, we're going to be talking about working directory again. It's been a little while since we thought about that. The format files as well as the template files all have to be in that working directory along with all of your others. I'm also going to tell you with Creo, resist the urge to be really organized with your file system, because Creo doesn't like all the different levels inside of a file folders. So if you, like I said, resist the urge of saying module 1 assignments and having all your stuff in there. Just put it in one working directory, all of the files, because as you go along, you won't have those issues with it not being able to read it. So one directory, and we'll talk about that when we kind of get things set up, but you're going to want to download the A and B versions of the format files, and then the A and B versions of the template files for English, metric, and then there's an assembly border as well. Okay. And the assembly border, what that does is it automatically generates your bill of material as well as puts all the balloons on. So it's kind of a nice automated process that we have there. So here are the downloads. And when it gets to be that time, I'll remind you how to do that, but that's what that section is. And then what I have out here populated so far is our first module. I have this one kind of all figured out, if you would. And we're going to be starting that this evening. In here, we're going to be creating our first project. You're going to have 2 weeks to work on this week and next week. And I'm using this first module as a warm up back into Creo. It's been a little while. It's been almost a full year since you guys have done Creo. So you're going to be, kind of figuring out the mouse again and kind of maneuvering around and getting used to the ribbons again. So, so this is a little bit lighter one, but I think it's a great way to kind of get our feet wet again and kind of get us back to the basics before we start doing some other things. So I will talk about module 1 in more detail as we look at that project. And then you're going to notice there's going to be module 2, 3, and 4, and I'll get those details out there as, as I get those solidified. Then you're going to notice on the left-hand side here is your Zoom link. So to get into Zoom, if you are off campus, you simply click on the Zoom link, kind of get rid of that. And then all you're going to do is you're going to start the applicable meeting that we have. Then what you're going to be done, what's going to happen is if I haven't opened up the meeting before you get in, you're going to be put in like a waiting room, and you just got to wait for me to open up the class. So that's going to be the Zoom link for you. I do have the assignments out here for you as well, so that you can kind of see what's here. If you're wondering like where the assignments are, you may or may not use this. Grades are going to be something that's probably kind of important to you. So your grades are all going to be out here, and this is going to be the grade book open to you as you complete them and I enter those. And then the rest of these are going to be, items that are kind of open to you in terms of library resources. I don't have any assignments where you're going to be using the library, but maybe for other things you might, and so on. So, I did want to let you know that you will notice if I go back into the module, something I didn't show you. There's always the learning plan, and this is kind of like letting us know the things that we're going to be doing. But then I also always have a module session recordings. So any session recordings that I have for that module will go in there, and they're going to be dated and I'll give usually a little description so that you know what they were. Sometimes, depending if it makes sense to break them up into separate shorter videos, I will. Otherwise, it's just, like I said, going to be a recording of whatever the lecture was that I did for that day. So nothing fancy, nothing edited, but if you can't make it, you're going to get the duplication of what we covered, which is good. So any questions Canvas wise right now? Okay, any questions syllabus wise right now? All right. And then the other place that I just want to peek before we get into things is the calendar. I do populate the calendar in Canvas. So if you go over to the calendar, you'll have the option, and depending, I think, the device that you're on, you'll have the option to turn on and off any courses that you're currently enrolled in. So I just have the engineering design projects I highlighted here. So you're going to notice that I have in here for you when we're going to be lecturing, which are the times, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 5 till about 9 o'clock. And then you're going to see the due dates out here for the assignments. I don't have them all out there yet. I do need to add some details to later assignments, but for assignment number 1, these are out there. So we're going to be spending this first week and next week on module 1, working on, leading up to getting all these items done for that first module. So, so the calendar is something that you can use out here as well. Any questions? Then I think that takes care of the things that I wanted to cover to make sure that you guys knew. And as we go through, like I said, ask questions if something's not real clear, or I'll be revisiting some of these things as well. All right, so what I'm going to do right now is I am going to stop recording.